Welcome to the Land Investing Business Secret Podcast, where each short episode we talk about the strategies, experiences, and the tools to help you launch, grow, and scale your land business. Learn how to find freedom within your own business, find out ways to build consistency in your processes, and hear how other everyday land investors are winning so you can get to the next step closer to building your dream life through your land business. And I'm your host of the Land Investing Business Secrets Podcast by Pebble, Jesse Kwong. Hey, how's it going? It's Jesse here from the Land Investing Business Secret Podcast by Pebble. I have an awesome friend, somebody who's been there since the beginning when I started in land investing. In fact, I finished just recording it, so I'm just recording. I typically record the introductions afterwards, but it was a conversation I really enjoyed, and his name is Karl. Some of you guys may know him, and the amount of contribution and impact he's brought into the community is second to none. So he is not an educator, but he's always been helping so many people in the land space, including myself. So I'm excited to let you guys listen to this show. This show is brought to you by Pebble. If you are looking to systemize, streamline, and really start thinking about building a sustainable business, I would say almost a home center for your business, look no further than Pebble. This is what we're doing as land continues to change. And this is one of the things we had a conversation about, is how land constantly continues to change. And Pebble puts you back in that seat, allowing you to make decisions and stay in the strategic position while you leverage your team, while you leverage software like Pebble to continue to grow or buy back time in your land business. So feel free, head over to pebblerei.com. There is a big fat button that says book a demo. It will be with me. That's myself. I'd be happy to jump on a call with you, get an understanding about your business, and see if Pebble's even a good fit. There's a ton of resources I'd love to sort of share with you on a call too, if it isn't. So make sure you head over to pebblerei.com/demo, or just go to the homepage and hit the big fat button, book a demo. Nonetheless, here I'm gonna be quiet. I'm gonna let the show run on here and enjoy this interview I had here with my good friend Karl. Hey, how's it going? It's Jesse here from the Land Investing Business Secrets Podcast, here with Karl. Karl is somebody I've known for a few years now. But before we get to that, Karl, how are you doing here today?
I'm doing well today. I'm blessed. Better than I deserve.
Thank you so much. Karl, I met Karl several years ago. He was one of those people I was very lucky to be a part of the RE Tipster community with Seth. And Karl was one of those people who always went out of his way to help so many people get started. So first of all, Karl, I just want to recognize that. You've been doing that since the beginning for so long. And I think you don't get enough credit for that. So I want to say thank you so much. I still remember the days you were active on the forums, and you probably still are. And I'm not as active on there anymore, but thank you so much for that. Let's jump into things. Things have changed quite a bit here. Karl and I actually recently reconnected here. It's interesting to kind of hear where life has taken everybody. And Karl, well, first of all, in fact, before we get into what's going on with you, why don't you share with us a little bit as to how you got started in the land business?
Okay, so back in 2014, began to think about kind of the end of my W-2 career and retirement and the things that I might want to be involved in, and I enjoy business-like activity and being engaged, and so I didn't want retirement to be something where I just sat around in a recliner. And so I began to think about what would I get involved in, and I suck at golf, and so that was scratched off the list. But real estate was something that interested me, and at the time, the assignment I had with the company I worked with involved a commute that was about an hour and 15 minutes each way. So I began listening to podcasts related to real estate. Certainly had in mind either single family rental or maybe smaller multifamily, but began listening, to Bigger Pockets. And obviously, read Rich Dad Poor Dad, but began listening to podcasts and ran across, the podcast of our friend Seth, podcast 39, where it was talking about this concept of land, and it just clicked and made sense. That was before Seth had a course, and probably before many others. Jack Bosch probably did, but certainly, the Land Academy folks, the Casual Fridays folks, and Seth did not yet have a course, but began listening to what he was talking about and thought, well, that's not rocket science. I can figure out how to do that. But engaged with Seth after that. Made a few tax sales. Occasionally still go to those, but and I've even bought some properties at tax sales. But I just began looking for property in the area where I'm at, and that's something I've encouraged folks is, look in the area, or maybe start in the area where you're at if you know property values and have a better feel for land value. And so got started doing land then, and when Seth developed his very good land master class, he invited me to audit or critique that, and I was unmercifully happy to provide him feedback. And so began involved in the forum, and really this land business can be quite lonely if you aren't involved in a forum or other conversations. And what I found out really early was that if you give, it comes back around. And I've built a lot of great relationships, friendships. For example, with you. For example, with folks that I'm in a mastermind group, because early on they called and said, "Hey, I heard you on Seth's podcast. Could you help me out with land?" And not that I'm an expert at anything. I'm just willing to talk and think and share an opinion. So been doing the land off and on, for land business off and on since 2014, and it never was intended to be a full-time gig, because I had a very good W-2 job, which I continued to work at for 8 years past that time. But I wanted to learn the real estate area and then be able to focus on an area maybe when I retired, and that be something that would entertain or engage me while still making money.
Now let's talk about that. You've sort of stepped into that new stage. I recently just found out, and I hope you don't mind me sharing this, but this is one of the reasons why I brought you on here, is you stepped into retirement, and that's awesome. And I know the story that you kind of got put into retirement, not put into retirement, you had a choice, and it was sort of an obvious choice for yourself. But what's that whole process been like, kind of going from a W-2, you've been doing land, now you're stepping into retirement world. What's that been like for yourself?
I think anyone that's gone from a W-2 job, whether it's retiring or going land full-time, would tell you that it can be quite a transition, because with the W-2 job, you have a network at work, right? You have folks that you work with that become your friends, and maybe folks that you're not as friendly with, and you kind of know that. But you have a network and a routine that you get used to. And then when that ends, especially if you're not ready for it to end, I think it'd be quite dramatic, if not traumatic, to folks. I had been thinking about and planning about retirement for a while, but I still had in my mind it was a couple of years away. Our company was going through some reorganization, cost cutting, that I was very much a part of that activity with the consultants that we had brought in to do it, which had kept me quite busy for the last year. But I could see an opportunity for me to exit the company, and at the same time, I was just blessed with one of the legacy defined pension retirement plans, and that plan had an opportunity to take a lump sum amount, but the amount you take was very much driven by interest rates. So as we began to see interest rates rise over the last 8 months and continue to rise as the Fed tries to get a hold of inflation, it had a opposite effect on my retirement balance, or my lump sum balance. At some point in time, it got to where if I was going to retire in the next year or two, it cost me more to stay than it did leave. So that made the decision to go easier. It just kind of advanced some of what I would call the mental preparation for it, and so. Sometimes it's little things like, okay, if you've got a company cell phone, you're going to have to get your own cell phone. And by the way, you better have all your contacts transferred. Or, the guys and gals that you'd call to go to lunch, you have no opportunity or know how to get a hold of them. There's those kind of things that just fit. But, there's other things. It's like, okay, wow. Health insurance, life insurance, do I even need life insurance or, anymore? Because they buy life insurance to provide for your family if you die prematurely, but if you retire and they're beneficiaries of, retirement do you. So those are the kind of things you have to plan. And I would advocate folks early in life when they think that they don't maybe have enough in way of assets to warrant financial planning, periodically talk to a financial planner or talk to others and get recommendations around a financial planner. And then what are the things I should be doing at stages of life? We fortunately had been doing that, but we had kind of that last 2 years of getting ready advanced into about 2 to 3 weeks when it became obvious that, the opportunity was there to retire. Fortunately, we were in a good position to retire, and it wasn't something that was forced on me. But you think about people leaving a W-2 job, if they choose to, either to go to land full time, which is certainly the subject matter most of us think about when we listen to these podcasts.
Yeah.
There's a lot of thought process that ought to go into it, and I know several good friends that have, and kind of watched them go through that process. Very few people have I ran into that have thought about and planned for retirement, or thought about and planned for leaving their W-2 job to do land full time. Have I talked to them and they've said, I really regret that.
Right. Right.
So, but it's a tough position to come right up to that edge and then step over the line mentally. And so,
Well,
fortunately, had a chance to begin to do that. It just got accelerated by, anywhere from 6 to 18 months through
so
opportunity.
let's talk about them. You got accelerated, and you're obviously having to figure out life things and getting your sort of ducks aligned with that. What about on the business side? I mean, when you're sort of transitioning over, now you're looking at running this land business full time. I mean, quote unquote full time, whatever full time really means to you now. I mean, um, was there any sort of business preparation that you need to do as you sort of come in to
As I kind of came into the year, just the activity at my day job was very busy with all of the transformation we're going through in the company. So I had ramped down my land business, and my son is in the land business with me. But then
Yes.
the last 12 to 15 months, he had graduated from university and took a full-time job and was trying to, build a foundation for his career. So his time that he could devote to the land business went down significantly as well. I mean, it was pretty nice, even if I was working 12-hour days, to have a son that was going to college, in class 3 or 4 hours a day, and then homework that he could work around and say, okay, you're my VA. Here's all the things you need to go do tomorrow during business hours. And it worked well for us to do that. But as he started his career, what we found is in the last year, both of us had ramped down. We still were sending mail, but not at an as aggressive a pace as we had.
Right.
And the land business has really changed. And when you go from 2014, 15 to now, there's a lot more people sending mail. You're not buying properties at 20 cents on the dollar, regardless of what a guru may tell you. You're buying properties if you're getting a good deal at 35, 40%. And a lot more people sending mail. So
Yeah.
you have to hit people at the same time. So we had purposely slowed down a bit and had contemplated, how do we approach it going forward. I've been retired not yet 3 months, but I've taken some of that time to do things that I committed to do when I retired, and that was go visit some relatives, go do some things that just hadn't done, and as parents get older and all, you kind of feel guilty about it. Reconnect with friends that have always been friends, were always there, but you just didn't talk to them. And so we've taken a little bit of time to do that.
Right.
And then to think strategically about how much time do I want to spend doing the land business.
Yeah.
I worked almost 4 decades in a career with a company that fortunately blessed to have a good retirement program. And
Yeah.
so do I want to leave that for a full-time job, even if I command what I do? And my intention was not to do that, but at the same time, keep a business going. And like everybody else in the land business, kind of the outcome of that is probably moving up towards larger value, larger size properties, and potentially subdividing. And
Yeah,
so,
it seems like a lot of people are moving upwards that way. I mean, let's pull it back a little bit here. So now that you're sort of reevaluating a lot of things, is there sort of any reevaluation? I mean, you just started mentioning this, but reevaluation on the goals of your land business. I mean, I'm sure this is something you're thinking about too. I mean,
um, when I've been fortunate in a position where the land business didn't support a lifestyle.
yeah,
It helped put kids through college, for which I'd already saved for,
right,
which is a plus.
yeah,
And so my reevaluation is that look at the opportunity to do maybe fewer deals,
yeah,
uh, larger deals. Uh, there was a time when I had aggressively pursued, buying and selling 100 properties in a year, and was able to do that. That's a lot of work, and
yeah,
it has a reward with it. But
yeah,
my my expectation over the next year and a half is probably fewer properties, larger value. If you're buying properties for high 5 to 6 figures and selling them, you don't have to double your money,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
To have a decent income flow or from doing the land business. One of the
yeah,
things I've pondered is looking at buying properties that I already know people want to sell, and so
yeah,
whether that's long days on market or expired listings, and making offers that certainly will be lower than what somebody was hoping they would get, but at the same time, it's a different conversation than the blind offer or neutral letter conversation.
yeah,
But
yeah.
at the same time, uh, you know, margins from a percent of return may not be as large, but and there's maybe a larger capital requirement as you move up, but that's not a barrier. So
Well, one of the things that I do want to highlight here, and I think Carl's, has a really, I mean, you have a really clear understanding of it sounds like you have a clear understanding of where you want to go. You want to slow down. And I just want to reiterate out there, I think there's a lot of people who are coming into this thinking like, I have to go 100 miles an hour and send, and do. Like, it's okay to be sort of take the business whatever pace you want to take it at. And I feel like
that's
sometimes
really
we,
the luxury of this land business.
there you go. Yeah.
If you
Uh,
stay connected, you can ramp it up
yeah.
and down,
Yeah.
and so I think
I mean,
that's a luxury we have.
I just had an interview with two sisters. They're one lives in Bali and one lives in stateside, but I mean, they like to run it in a seasonal way too, and I don't think there's any issues with that. And I sometimes I hop on a lot of these demo calls and speak to other land investors. It almost feels like they're embarrassed to mention like, yeah, I'm not doing this full time. That's totally cool. And I think as long as you're clear, and one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you, Carl, is get an understanding of where you are, what your goals are, and share with our listeners that again, it's okay. We don't have to always go 100 miles an hour. So I
Well,
appreciate you sharing that with us.
one of the things I think someone that whether it's retirement or leaves a W-2 job has to be careful about is not trying to do everything. And so I think it's important that folks think about what their post-retirement or post-job change plan is, particularly if folks are planning on retiring. It's what are you going to do, and can you afford it, are two key questions. I had friends that referred me to a couple of books. They're not rocket science type of things, and they're available on Amazon. If you don't mind, I'll mention both of them. I think it'd be helpful
Yeah,
for
yeah,
folks.
please.
One of them is How to Retire Happy, Wild, and Free by Ernie Zielinski. It's available out on Amazon for $10 or $15. Another is What Will I Do All Day by Patrice Jenkins. And both of these books, aren't so much around the question of what will you do just to keep busy during retirement, but they're really around kind of encouraging you to do a self-assessment about what you want and can do,
Mhm.
what matters to you, what's
Yes.
meaningful, and there are some things that matter and that are meaningful to me in terms of giving back to church or spending time with more family. potentially some mission work that I just haven't been able to do because work was always in the way.
Yeah.
Uh, and that has nothing to do with the land business or necessarily making money, but those are things that uh, I believe will be satisfying. And I think folks ought to examine those types of things, what matters to them, what's meaningful,
Yeah.
what's satisfying, and do you want to be engaged or do you want to be a couch potato? And I think most of the folks that are in the land business probably want to be engaged. And so,
I know you're enjoying the show episode so far, but I wanted to let you know that if you are looking to build or scale a serious land business, perhaps a 6-figure second income or eventually a 7-figure land investing empire, Travis King's company, Land Investing Mastery, has the most current and innovative education in the space. Travis goes beyond the traditional microflip that you might be familiar with and shows you how to 10x your deal size and execute on strategies like subdividing, portfolio takedowns, land sniping. We're talking 6-figure per flip strategies. If you're getting your education from someone who isn't actively investing, you're more than likely going to hit some plateaus as you try to scale. If you want to learn how to avoid the saturated red ocean markets, skip over the small stuff, and learn how to become a boss land investor, then Travis is your guy. Travis has completed nearly 1,000 coaching calls in the last 2 years that I've known him, and he has his pulse on the market. He will tell you, though, Land Investing Mastery is not a factory. They're a boutique agency built on transformational, life-changing results. You see, I'm in a really unique position, and I really mean what I've just said above. In fact, I get to speak to a lot of investors from all sorts of different education, training, coaching background out there, and I get a very good view of things from all the one-on-one demo calls that I've done. Now, you may want some social proof. Head over to pebblerei.com/Travis and check out Travis's wall of love on his testimonial page. And while you're there, you can also learn more about Travis's training programs and his exclusive mastermind. So simply head over to www.pebblerei.com/Travis for more information. Yeah. It's I feel like in the last 3 months, like you said, you've been in retirement for 3 months. Like you must have gone through a lot of planning and realization coming into it. Now you mentioned your wife and you mentioned your son earlier. Is there any plans that family get involved with it? What's the long-term plan here with the land business? I mean,
uh,
if you had it your way.
my wife has asked several times if I wish she was more involved. And I've told her it's fine that you don't. You know,
Yeah.
you've got things you're interested in, you do. And I don't expect the land business to be something that you're involved in. I appreciate the support that you provide me. Um, and the support came fairly early. If the first few deals are good, the support comes pretty easy. Just, so going back, what's now almost a decade doing this.
Yeah.
But with respect to involvement, I would like to have a business in a place, and I think that's where maybe it is fewer deals or more. That certainly my son could do it as a side hustle, if you will, to a full time career
Yeah.
somewhere else, or even do it full time if he chose. And same with my daughter. My hope is that both of them, and my son's a degreed accountant. My daughter is going to college to be a school teacher. She'll wrap that up in another year or so. School teaching doesn't pay well, so she may be a higher candidate, a greater candidate for assistance in this. And she has done VA work for us. We've paid her a nice hourly rate to do VA work for us
Yeah.
while she's going to college. And so I'd like to position a business where
Mhm.
they could do that. I think there's a lot of value for both of them having worked a full-time W-2 job,
Yep.
just because of the relationships, the responsibility that it brings, and but I recognize there are people that aren't as well suited for that and might just drive them frickin' nuts,
Right.
and
Right.
so but it's in my mind it's a bit of paying the dues, understanding what you like and don't like. And so I'm not setting up a business with an expectation that they would take it over,
Okay.
but have it in a way that they could be involved, but not have to be a full time job for them.
It's more
Uh,
of a transitional and
Kind of
feel
a
out.
supplemental, if you will.
Yeah, sure,
And so
sure.
that's kind of the thing that I would hope.
Carl, you've been doing this for some time now, and you're still actively land investing. I mean, what would you say consistently from the day you started land investing up until this day? The market has changed. A lot has changed. I mean, I've been at a fraction of the time you've been at since 2018. But what have you sort of done that has kept you consistent in land investing? I mean, what have you done right to kind of keep going with land?
Well, I think two things that help. One is relationships with others that are in the land business. Uh, Whether that's through activity on the forums, whether it's just through reaching out. I've gone to a couple of live events recently, and it's amazing how lonely the business is, but how connected you are as well. Seeing a lot of faces that already had names and even voices with, but being able to reach out, share ideas, just find folks that'll tell you, here's what I've tried and it sucks, or
Yeah.
here's something I learned the hard way. And we've all learned those things the hard way, buying land without a survey and ended up owning a road. I own one now. Uh, so depending on the size of the acreage and the dollars involved, I would recommend a survey. And I've told that to a few people, right? Sometimes a meets and bounds land description is tough to read. But it's a mistake you don't make twice.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so that's one is relationships. The other, and it comes back to that relationship thing, concept, but don't be afraid to talk to the people with which you are doing business, whether it's on the buying side or the selling side.
Mm.
Uh, I've oscillated back and forth between range offers and blind offers and neutral letters, and I sent out a mailer with 4,000 neutral letters not long ago, and that's kept me busy, right? Because neutral letters, folks are sure they're interested to sell at their price, and
Yeah.
so but it also affords you the opportunity for a dialogue. And in
Mm.
the last month, I've had three different folks that when we had the conversation and I shared with them the price, they were not interested in it.
Yep.
They came back with a counter offer that I wasn't interested in.
Yeah.
And I sent to them in writing why I couldn't do their counter offer. And I said, here's the price I'd pay. Here's the closing cost I'm going to pay. Uh, here's what I think the market value of that land is going to be conservatively. And I can't afford to buy in a way that I think I'm going to always capture the high end of what I think the market range is. I have to be conservative. Here's what my closing costs when I sell it are going to be. I'm going to use a realtor. Here's what that's going to be. If I make money, I have to pay taxes on it. And here's the minimum return that I would want to make on a property. So
Wow.
that it's not personal. It's business for me.
Yep.
And in order for me to buy your property at a price that if I had to sell it, if I had a cash inflow problem and needed to sell it quickly at the lower end of a market price, here's the minimum I can pay and still have a 20% after-tax return. Now, we can debate all day long whether or not they think I should be making a 20% after-market return or not.
Right.
It's a number that I've made up. And when I tell them if I sell it in 6 months and I do that every 6 months, it's a 40% return, right?
Yeah.
On an after-tax basis. So when you gross that up, you're not going to get those kind of returns. But if you tell them, in my business, we strive for a 20% after-market return or after-tax return or whatever it is,
Wow.
and you give them the numbers, then and I've had several people come back and thank me, and one of them came back and sent me a really nice email and said, I think you're probably the most ethical land investor I've ran across. I get lots of letters.
Right.
So I appreciate it, but we can't accept your offer.
Yeah.
2 weeks later, he came back and said, my wife and I have talked about it. We'll accept your offer. that one's going to close next week on the buy side. I've got a realtor lined up to sell it. And I was transparent with him around why I couldn't accept your counter. Now, I wouldn't have had to take that time. He could have countered and I could have said no.
Right.
But in multiple instances on this mailer, I've sent folks back a note saying, I've clipped out this. I've done a screenshot of the spreadsheet and pasted it in and said, here's the number.
Wow.
And I sent one back 2.5 weeks ago to a guy that said, in order for me to buy your property and make the return I told you I need to buy it for 52. He was at 65 as his low. And I sent it back to him. He sent me a thank you the next day. This morning, about 10 o'clock, I got a note from him saying, if you'll do 48, we've got a deal. And that was below the 52 I showed him in my example. So, and I think it comes back to that communication and relationship, being forthright with people.
Yeah.
And you really shouldn't chase a bad deal. At some point in time, you just tell folks, I can't do it.
Yeah.
Whether or not you spend the time to tell them why, that's a different story.
Has
I've
that, has
gone
that
back
always
and
been
forth.
has that always been part of your process where you just lay it out and you be as transparent as possible? And
It hasn't. It hasn't. But on some of these properties, these properties that I mailed to, they're in an area where I know that 10, 20 years ago, these parcels that are ranging from 1 to 5 acres were selling for a much higher value, and people are underwater, but they've had them for 1 to 2 decades.
Right.
So then the question is, would they turn loose of them and exit? And the first time I did it was somebody that was way underwater in terms of, they were comparing to the price they paid. They didn't have a note that big anymore because it's been 2 decades. And I thought, and they were forthright about what they had paid for it, what they had hoped to get, just to be taking a loss. Now, it's cash to them, and they've already taken the loss. The market's already declined, right? And so I thought, well, they were forthright with me, and I sent back a note that was pretty straightforward and said, if I target this type of return, this is what I'd have to have. The numbers don't work. I appreciate you being forthright with me, so I want to be forthright with you. Here's why I'm declining.
I love that.
And I was surprised when they came back and said, we've talked about it. You're right. If we're going to get out of this, we'll take your offer.
I love that.
I don't know that that's an approach that I'll do a lot of time and all the time, but like I said, in this mailer that I sent out, around 4,000, I got one deal that was able to just make an offer, and they took it. But 3 have been a function of telling folks, here's why I can't accept your counter, and the note was written in a way that, appreciate your time, thank you, want to be forthright with you. I hope you sell it. If you're interested, I know some realtors in the area, and I'll provide you some names of realtors. And I had them come back and go. Now, that having been said, I've done 2 others that way, and I haven't heard back from them, and may not.
Sure. I hope you guys listening are making notes of this. That's an incredible value there, Karl. And then I want to take it. You mentioned 2 things: relationships and being open to conversations with both buyers and sellers. I want to back it up to relationships here. I think you do a phenomenal job on that. And again, your name. We haven't had a lot of dialogue in between, when I started with REI Conversion and Pebble here, but just recently we've reconnected, but I always remember you and how much you've contributed into the community. What do you say to those people who are a little bit nervous that, they're speaking to literally competitors of theirs, and what do you sort of have any thoughts on that? And obviously I'm assuming it's been beneficial for you to build relationships with others. But some people are not as comfortable and a little bit hesitant, and I understand. But any thoughts around that, Karl?
I've had this conversation with a few of the friends in the land business. Spencer Anderson, maybe one of them recently, where the conversation we were having was, pretty early on, you can figure out if somebody's trying to screw you, and if they do that, shame on them for doing it. If you try a second time, maybe shame on you if that happens. But what I found is, that this scarcity mentality, if that's the mentality you have, you may not succeed at this business, or quite frankly, any business you're in, because at some point in time, that's all about taking and not giving back and trying to get an angle or edge on somebody. And so whether it's people you're buying from on land, which, you may not buy from the same person many times, although there's been a few instances where I've bought multiple pieces of property from someone that had multiple, and came back later and said, hey, you bought from us, we're going to sell this other one. On the sell side, depending on who you sell to, and I've built relationships with people that like to buy from me, and they go sell on terms, right? Yeah. And they periodically reach out and say, hey, do you have anything in this area? So if you're building your relationship on a basis of getting somebody, stealing from, or getting an angle on somebody, there's a chance someone's going to see through that, right? And even if it's like, if you came to me, Jesse, and we had a conversation, I said, hey, Jesse, can you help me out this way? And you figured out that I took and stole your ideas for Pebble, and then went and produced a product, guess what? You and I probably aren't going to have any more conversation, even if I try, right? And there are going to be some times that you're going to get burned. Just go on for that. But I think you and I both can count on both hands and all our fingers and toes. The number of times we've made those contacts with people, and they've been very meaningful. And down the road, if you said, "Hey, I heard that Jay Thomason was doing X," and you reach out to Jay and you learn something, and then later he comes back and asks for something, and you can probably count on the fingers on one hand how many times you've kind of been screwed over, right?
Yeah.
And so
I appreciate you sharing.
Sometimes it goes with faith, and I'm not necessarily a believer in karma, as that hard work, being honest with folks, helping folks out has a return on it.
I love that. I want to leave you. Well, I want to ask you one more question. You're coming into a different phase in life. You're approaching things differently in life, and I'm super happy for you. What are you now? Are you experimenting with anything? I mean, you just shared with us one of the things you're experimenting with is just being very transparent with some of your buyers and sellers. But is there anything else you're trying that you've maybe not tried a lot of before?
I'm going to take an approach at subdivides.
Okay.
Not so much, putting in concrete streets and roads and utilities subdivide, but buying a larger parcel and cutting it up. I've bought some larger parcels in the past, and I've had the opportunity to sell them and make a profit without having to figure out how do I go through the planning and zoning commission to get it subdivided and all. And I can't say that I wouldn't take a fast nickel and run again, because that's always been kind of my motto is I'll take a fast nickel over a slow dime. I just go reinvest the money. But that's something that I want to, I'm not in a hurry to necessarily do anything. So I've got the time to do it. And that's something that I want to try. I think there's opportunity there. The barriers to entry for that approach are different than they are on the, $500 or $5,000 purchase price, right? So there's a capital barrier. There's a lot more work, and deals you're not going to buy something today and then flip it in 3 months. You're going to have probably a longer buy process. You're probably going to have to actually physically go out and visit with the landowner and talk to them and build a relationship.
Right.
Which a lot of people in the land business go, "Oh my God, I have to talk to somebody. I got to go see them in person. I'll just send more mail," right? And then on the sell side, whether it's roads, wells, surveys, so it'll be a lot more involved. But it's an area that I haven't learned and that I want to give a shot at.
I love that fact. I mean, you heard Karl say this. I mean, since you started back in 2014, things have changed quite a bit. And I stress this a lot to a lot of people. There is no one magic formula. The landscape of land constantly continues to change and evolve. And I just wanted to get an understanding of what you're trying here, Karl, and that's awesome that you're diving into subdividing. And this is what's
been said. I think the land business is still a good business to be in. There was a time when you could buy property and day in, day out, double your value. And sometimes you ran into that one that was just a gem that you bought for 10 and sold for 80, and you go, "Oh wow," right? And if you doubled your money, you became disappointed. Well, now we're kind of in a period where if you're buying for 20 and selling for 35, and after transaction cost, you make 7 or 8, right? and you're able to do that in 4 months. Wow, that's not really a great deal, and you're not bragging to anybody about that. But if you're all in at 35 and you make 7, that's 20%, right? That's 1/5, right? And if you do that in 4 months, right, 3 times 20 is a 60% annualized return. You go telling people at work or around that are invested in the stock market and happy that they're getting 12%, right, pre-tax. You tell them I'm making 60% annualized, they think you're selling drugs. Right? And so it's not a bad business to be in even today. I think you have to work harder and smarter than maybe when you and I started.
Yeah, no. I think we've just been spoiled. I think, and that sort of is still that sort of message is still out there. Nonetheless, I mean, the returns are still crazy, but I
I
think
do. I do believe there's going to be some falling out. I think folks are going to get in, try it, and go, "Wow, this
sure.
is harder work than I thought."
Yep.
I had a few deals that didn't play out, and maybe they didn't wait for the next one that was the home run.
Yeah.
So I think there will be some settling out,
Yeah.
and I don't wish that on anybody. I think it's just natural. There's been a big rush into it. A lot of folks are going to stay. I think a lot more are going to go.
Yeah.
I'll go look
It's
for the next shiny object.
yeah. Yeah. Carl, I really enjoyed our conversation there with you. I feel like I could sit here and just listen to you. In my head, I was like, I could just sit on a carpet and listen to you talk all day and just ask these kind of questions here. Carl, we're running out of time here, but I wanted to say, thank you for all that you've done. Guys, if you want to see what relationship is all about and understanding, get a feel for Carl. I'm sure you could dig back in some of RE Tipster's old forum stuff as well. Although I think they have a new forum now. Maybe give Carl an ad on Facebook. I don't know how active you are on Facebook, Carl, but I mean, if people wanted to get in touch with you, hopefully they're not going to bombard you, but Carl, would you be open to sharing your contact here, or what's the best way if somebody wanted to get in touch with you?
Sure, I think probably the best way is by email. I am active in the RE Tipster forum. I am active in the Facebook forums for Seth's RE Tipster, the Casual Fridays.
Yes.
Jump into your forum occasionally,
Yeah.
and so those are all good. And I don't mind if somebody sends me an email either. It's Carl at kjlandholdings.com. I know that you have that email.
Yeah.
I don't mind folks sending me an email.
I appreciate it. I mean, if somebody wants to, if I don't know, there might be any opportunity here that they can perhaps work with you or whatever it is. You know where Carl is at. I encourage you to really see the example that Carl sets in terms of building relationships. Carl, I really appreciate you. Again, congratulations on your retirement.
Let me take just a minute to thank you for all that you're doing. The tools that you've brought to us in the industry are very helpful. I know there's others out there that they all have their value, but certainly, I've had your websites for quite a while now. I gave up my really great lifetime deal for one that provides the monthly support, which I think is a great value. And the Pebble tool, I see you and Kevin and others, you're genuinely looking for ways to make it better just every week. And so I applaud you for that and thank you.
Carl, I appreciate that. You didn't have to do that. But once again, thank you, Carl. And I hope to have you back on the show in the future. Thanks, Carl.
Thank you, Jesse.
Bye. Before you stop this episode or hit the next episode, I want to personally thank you for listening to this episode of the Land Investing Business Secrets podcast by Pebble. If you found this helpful, we'd greatly appreciate any awesome reviews and ratings on whichever platform you are listening to this on. And if you have 2 minutes and wanted to step it up even more and help others, feel free to share this in other Facebook groups or pages or any communities, giving others a heads up of the Land Investing Business Secrets podcast or the specific episode that may help them on their land investing journey. Once again, thanks so much for listening and catch you on our next episode.